Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Onslow Vietnam Veterans Memorial Rededication Ceremony. On behalf of the Vietnam Veterans Memorial Foundation, we would like to welcome you and are pleased that you have joined us for this special occasion. Today's invocation is being given by Commander James Asher. We will rise now for the invocation, and please remain standing for the March on the Colors, followed by the National Anthem.
Let us pray. God of grace and mercy, we come here today at the completion of this memorial to rededicate it and to dedicate ourselves to remembering the sacrifice that was made by more than 3 million service members. It is only right and fitting that we are here today to rededicate this memorial to the Vietnam veterans and especially to the 58,262 whose names are inscribed on the wall. The reception many received as they came back from that conflict was very different from what we see today. So we rededicate this memorial to those who served and focus on our obligation to respect, care, and appreciate all those past and present serving in our armed forces. We should never forget their sacrifice and the sacrifice their families make as they serve this great nation. Those who have served are the ones who have truly dedicated this memorial through their faithful service. Let us now as a nation devote ourselves to honoring the sacrifice of those who have served in visible ways that show our gratitude for the freedoms we possess. Bless this ceremony and each and every person who is present, and grant us the opportunity to see the fulfillment of this prayer. As we conclude this prayer, we pause for a moment of silence to remember all prisoners of war and those missing in action. Amen.
Forward, march.
You may now be seated. Join me now in welcoming Mrs. Pat Walker.
Good morning, and thank you all so very much for coming. I've been asked to tell you why we are here today. Well, 16 years ago, a county commissioner, Larry Fitzpatrick, asked my husband and I to dinner. After dinner, Larry approached the subject of having a memorial to the Vietnam veterans in Onslow County. Well, we talked about it, and he said this is something he thought we could do. Well, Lee and I agreed, not realizing that the we he meant was him and Lee and I. A meeting was scheduled with then base commander General Ray Smith to see if we could get land near the Beirut. I know he thought we were crazy and would never see it through. But in March of 1988, we received a letter from him agreeing to our idea. An open meeting to the public was held soon after, and from that point on, we were in business. August 25th of 1998, we became an incorporated venture. Needing 4 signatures for this incorporation, we recruited the late Clinton Williams to join our group. He then took over from Karen Selesky, who was our original treasurer. And he held that position for many years and helped raise the funds, which by this time we knew would be close to over $3 million. The Rooneys, Mike and Marion, joined us shortly after, and then the Odoms, Linda and Donald, who has served as our first vice and still is. When Clinton left, Linda became the finance officer as well as the fundraising chairman. Mike Rooney has served as vice president and president of the organization. Always there when needed, these few people were the backbone of this organization. Others came and went. Cat Horn was our president for 2 terms and started the motorcycle run, which became our biggest fundraiser every year. Louise and Finney Greggs have been helpful at attending most of our events and giving of their time. And then we went and looked for an architect. And John Sennett came on board and has stuck with us through it all. And actually, he probably won't admit it, but his biggest job was educating me, as I had no idea about construction, blueprints, and all that other stuff that he so patiently explained to me, and sometimes more than once. Pro Construction was chosen to be the contractor, and again, good people had patience with us in explaining all that would go into the construction of the memorial. Many thanks to Larry Hartke, Bob Warden, and site managers David Kennedy, Bill DeRossi, and Mark Guy. Without them and their constant support, we would be nowhere. To the city of Jacksonville, the county of Onslow, and the Marine Corps base, what can I say? You've been enthusiastic and helpful in this endeavor, never once saying no, and always there with encouraging words. As the memorial has developed into the site, we have much thought that went into the planning. From the red, white, and blue landscaping to the fountain with the 5 sprays, 1 for each branch of the armed forces, everything has a special reason. Letters were sent to all 50 state governors asking for flags to represent the fact that the men and women on the memorial came from all 50 states. A Canadian flag also flies here as a tribute to the over 800 Canadians on this memorial. And always keeping in mind the veterans, our veterans who gave their lives. In 2013, we became a partner with the Vietnam War Commemoration and continue to honor the veterans of Vietnam. Well, these are just some of the reasons that we're here today. The people who have helped us along the way to arrive at this point where the memorial is complete will always be near and dear to us all. Now we can say to our wonderful Vietnam veterans, your memorial is done. May you find healing, closure, and peace in the solitude of this memorial. This was all for you, and may you never be forgotten for the sacrifices you made. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the Mayor of the City of Jacksonville, Sammy Phillips.
Good morning. On behalf of the Jacksonville City Council and the City of Jacksonville, I want to welcome all of you to this memorial, rededication to this memorial. Back in 2009, it was a very hot day when this community last gathered to dedicate this monument. Today we gather again to note the significance of our Vietnam veterans and the accomplishment of the completion of this project. When annually we gather over here to your left at the Beirut Memorial, we remark how that event made us realize how we are all woven together into the fabric of our community. I remember the effects of the Vietnam War on this community. I know fathers of my friends who fought, friends who served, and friends who were injured. Today, this completion marks our tribute to those that were killed and causes us to remember all who were part of the Vietnam experience. I know that returning veterans of Vietnam were not given the same level of respect and honor that more recent veterans have experienced on their return from campaigns and battles. I very much regret that, and hope this community's involvement in this project helps us to heal some of those wounds. The memorial represents individual contributions of many, the commitment of the City of Jacksonville, Onslow County, and the Jacksonville Tourism Development Authority to our citizens who are Vietnam veterans. This memorial stands testament to our commitment to be a caring community. To every Vietnam veteran who served, to every Vietnam veteran who was injured or who suffers as a result of their service to our nation, to the families, friends, and associates of those who served, were injured, or died, and on behalf of a grateful community, we say thank you. To all those mentioned, and on behalf of the City of Jacksonville, we're proud to have been a part of the fundraising, funding, and now the rededication of this memorial. Thank you to those who organized, raised funds, helped plan, construct and build this memorial, and thanks to your families and friends who supported you through the period. Today we celebrate your work. We honor all Vietnam veterans, and we as a city pledge to hold this space sacred as part of the tribute you deserve. Thank you.
Please welcome to the podium Onslow County Commission Chairman Paul Buchanan.
This is such a dedication, but there's a few things of thanks with Pat and Lee Walker. You've done so much for the last 10 years that I've been a county commissioner and worked so hard alongside of you, and you've talked to me and all the other commissioners. But I'd like to recognize some of our commissioners. Vice Chair Barbara Eichner, if she would stand. Lionel Midget, Commissioner Jack Bright. These are just some of the commissioners who have worked hard in dedicating the money to this monument. This monument means a lot to me. Being a Vietnam vet myself, I've been to every one of these ceremonies and I enjoy being here. And I want to thank all of you for being here today. But one of the things I want to say, and it means a whole lot coming from me, is from my heart, and it always gets choked up when you're one of the Vietnam vets, would all my brothers and sisters from the Vietnam vets please stand? Welcome home. Welcome home. That means so much. And I want to thank you for your dedication. This memorial means so much. And Rolling Thunder, you've done so much for this community. This memorial is one of the greatest memorials that Onslow County could ever have. And one of the great things about this community, it's a caring community, a loving community that is dedicated to the military of Onslow County. And thank you for having us.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Commanding Officer, Marine Corps New River Air Station Colonel Timothy Salmon.
Good morning, everyone. It is an honor and a privilege to be here today on behalf of Marine Corps Installations East, Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune, and Marine Corps Air Station New River. This beautiful memorial behind us is built entirely due to the tremendous efforts of the Onslow County Vietnam Memorial Foundation and the generosity of our local community, which highlights the tremendous support this city of Jacksonville and Onslow County give to our military men and women. It is a truly spectacular tribute to the 10 million Americans who served during the Vietnam War, to the 3 million who served in Vietnam, to the over 303,000 who were wounded, or greater than 10% of those who served there in Vietnam. It is one of the few memorials who list the 58,229 servicemen and women who gave the ultimate sacrifice on behalf of the Vietnam people, our way of life, and fighting the spread of communism. The glass panels that list those names of our fallen are a poignant reminder of the tremendous sacrifice of that Vietnam generation. Here, we can reflect on the past and look confidently to the future, for we know Americans have and will always serve our country in time of need. The Vietnam veterans give us an inspiring account of American patriotism. They served faithfully in what was to some an unpopular war with far too little gratitude. Clearly today, many are grateful. I am grateful, and I would not be here today if it weren't for the selfless service of a New Jersey neighbor, Sergeant Tom Martin of the 101st Airborne Division, who won Purple Heart on Hamburger Hill. His sacrifice, his humility, his deep compassion for his brothers in arms, some of which are listed on these walls, stirred and inspired my soul to serve. Many of you in the audience have done your part to inspire countless others, whether in military or civilian service, to serve our neighbors. Thank you for your example and what you've done. Thank you all for being here today to rededicate this memorial to our Vietnam heroes. Thank you.
Now performing Fallen But Not Forgotten, Shelby Taylor Parr, followed by Chris Parr performing The House I Live In.
He stood beside his daddy and watched the soldiers marching by. It was Veterans Day and he wondered about the tears in his daddy's eyes. Later they laid flowers against a monument of stone. He said, "Son, my daddy went to fight. He didn't make it home. Fallen, but not forgotten. He was a hero. He stood so tall, and forever we will remember with honor and glory left behind their families in the towns where they were born, to the rice paddies of Vietnam, the sands of Desert Storm. They were soldiers in Korea, World War I and World War II. They paid the price, some gave their lives when they died for me and you. Fallen, not forgotten, they were heroes. They stood so tall, and forever we will remember with honor and glory. They gave their all. Honor and glory. Freedom is a blessing, but freedom has its price. We must remember those who paid it with their lives. Remember the fallen, they're not forgotten. They are the heroes. They stood so tall, and forever we will remember with honor and glory. They gave their all. Fallen, not forgotten, they were the heroes, stood so tall, and forever we will remember with honor and glory, honor and glory, honor and glory. They gave their all. They gave their all.
What is America to me? A name, a map, a flag I see, a certain word, democracy. What is America to me? The house I live in, a plot of earth, the street, the butcher and the baker are the people that I meet. The children in the playground, the faces that I see, all races and religions, that's America to me. The town I live in, the workers by my side, the little town or village where my people lived and died. The howdy and the handshake and the air of feeling free and the right to speak my mind out, that's America to me. The things I see about me, the big things and the small, the little corner newsstand or a house a mile tall, the wedding in the churchyard, the laughter and the tears, and the dream that's been a-growing for over 200 years. The house I live in, the house, the street, the room, the pavement of the city, or a garden all in bloom, the church, the school, the clubhouse, and the million lights I see, but it's especially the people. That's America to me.
Our next speaker is our guest speaker for today's ceremony. It's Major General Ray Smith. He was born in Sidler, Oklahoma, and enlisted in the Marine Corps in January of 1966. He completed Officer Candidate School in March of 1967 and the Basic School in August of the same year. General Smith served as a rifle platoon commander in Vietnam for Company A, 1st Battalion, 1st Marines, and took the command of the company in Hue during the Tet Offensive in 1968 for the remainder of his tour, where he led his company in active encounters, including the Rock Pile, Con Tien, and Dodge City south of Da Nang, to name just a few. In 1972, he was promoted to captain, attended the Vietnamese language school, and returned to Vietnam as an advisor to the Vietnamese Marine Corps through the Easter Offensive and counteroffensive. From 1973 to 1984, he completed his Bachelor of Arts degree in Asian Studies at Oklahoma State University, led Battalion Landing Team 2-8 in both Urgent Fury in Grenada and in Beirut, and was promoted to Lieutenant Colonel. General Smith earned a master's degree in International Relations from the Naval War College in May of 1988, assumed command of the 8th Marine Regiment. He was advanced to the grade of Brigadier General in June of 1992 and assigned as Deputy Commanding General, Marine Corps bases in Japan. Advancing to Major General in 1996, he returned to Camp Lejeune as Deputy Commanding General, 2nd Marine Expeditionary Force. He then assumed the assignment of Commanding General, Marine Corps Base, Camp Lejeune in 1997. His personal decorations include the Navy Cross, Defense Distinguished Service Medal, Silver Star Medal with Gold Star, Legion of Merit with Gold Star, Bronze Star with Combat V, and the Purple Heart with 2 gold stars. Ladies and gentlemen, please won't you welcome Major General Ray Smith.
Thank you. As most of you know, I have been here before, and I'm more than happy to be back. I want to give my personal thanks as a Vietnam veteran to all of those who supported this effort over the years. My personal thanks to the county of Onslow and the commissioners who have backed it all along, and the city of Jacksonville who's backed it all along. A great debt is owed to Rolling Thunder 5 and Rolling Thunder in general, because they've been big part of the fundraising effort. I also want to again acknowledge, as has been acknowledged, the guy who started it really, Larry Fitzpatrick, Sergeant Major, United States Marine Corps, retired, and a man that nobody in Onslow County needs to be introduced to. So Larry, thank you personally. I don't know if Larry's even here today, but oh yeah, there he is. Sorry, yeah, there he is. Stand up, Larry. But I doubt if there's anyone here, anyone who's ever been a part of this effort, including Larry, that would question the statement that I'm about to make. And that is, I know, and I think we all know, that this memorial would not be here today if it weren't for Pat and Lee Walker. They made it happen. They refused to hear no. Whether they pissed you off or you fell in love with them, they, by God, did not stop until it was done. And I will never forget you for it, Pat and Lee, both of you. We all know that the Vietnam generation didn't get a fair shake. That's a fact. We were ignored and in many cases treated like dirt by too large a part of the population of the United States. For some reason which I have never been able to understand, those who hated the war somehow decided they'd hate the warrior, as if it was our freaking idea. We all know that. We've heard it too many times, but it is a fact. And for a long time after the war, too many people in America and too many members of the media of America labeled us a bunch of drug-addicted, baby-killing losers. It lasted for a long time. It wasn't just immediately after the war. It lasted for a long time. When the truth is, our generation, if you go and look at the statistics, that cohort of that period of time has done better in business, in government, in politics, in philanthropy than any other group in our nation's history. That's a fact, folks. Vietnam veterans, we got a right, an absolute right, to not only be proud of our service in Vietnam, but even more proud, I believe, of our service since Vietnam. Today, when Marines and soldiers and airmen and sailors come home from a combat theater, they are welcomed with open arms. They are treated as they should be treated, as with the honor and dignity that they, by God, rightfully deserve. I've traveled quite a bit in the United States since I retired from active duty, and this is true everywhere you go. I mean, it's probably more true here than any other spot you can find, but this is true everywhere. And if you stop in some little burg somewhere where they're today, for some reason, honoring today's soldiers, and you dig around and find out who is the person or persons behind that effort in that town, almost without fail, you will find a bunch of Vietnam veterans. Many of them wearing these black vests and riding motorcycles. We have refused to let today's warriors be treated the way we were. And I am, by God, more proud of my fellow Vietnam veterans for that than I am for their service, and I am plenty proud of their service. There's 58,263, I think, as of today on the wall. Average age on that wall is 23 years old. One of them's a 15-year-old. 2 or 3 are 16-year-olds, and I'm not sure how many, but a larger number were 17-year-olds. So we had back then, as we have now, young Americans not being drafted, but wanting to serve America. We weren't drafting 15-year-olds or 16-year-olds. And the truth is only about 35% of those who served in Vietnam were drafted into the war. Larger percentage who served during the era were drafted, but those who served in Vietnam, it was less than has been depicted. We served with honor. We won every fight we were in. We took care of our own, and we loved our fellow man, our fellow soldier, sailor, airman, and Marine. We did then, and we still do. I came back here in 1996 from Korea, and the place on the base, on Camp Lejeune, was crawling with members of the former Soviet Socialist republics. We had a big exercise thing going on, which included a platoon from every nation that had been, except Russia, which had been part of the Soviet Union. And along with that platoon was their equivalent of their chairman of their Joint Chiefs of Staff and their equivalent of the Secretary of Defense. Nearly all of those guys had been, those guys who were their chairman and their SecDefs, had been general officers in the group of Soviet forces. Not Russians, Monrovians, Lithuanians, Belarusians, Ukrainians, etc. But they'd been general officers in the Soviet Army. And I met a guy who was the Minister of Defense of Monrovia. He had been a major general in the group of Soviet forces at the time of the collapse of the Soviet Union, 89-90. And he was said to have been the most decorated soldier in the entire Soviet military organization. I discovered he joined as an enlisted man in the Soviet Naval Infantry the same month I joined the United States Marine Corps. He was commissioned a lieutenant in the Soviet air mobile or airborne forces the same month I was commissioned a second lieutenant. Our career paths were almost exactly equal. And when we met, mine, and I believe his, first reaction was I wanted to whip his ass. And I think he wanted to whip mine, maybe just to show which of us really won the war, the Cold War. But we got to know each other a little bit and got past that pretty quickly because we found we had a lot in common. First and foremost was the fact that both of us absolutely hated the concept that was called communism. He lived with it, and I dedicated my life to fighting it. We were talking over a lot of drinks one night at the officers' club, and he was telling me about how when he was a captain and a major and lieutenant colonel, he'd be assigned to the group of Soviet forces in East Germany, and they'd be sitting there looking across the Fulda Gap from their side of the Fulda Gap. And they'd talk about how easy it would be to cut through Europe. They said, you know, we give absolutely no credit at all to the Germans and all those other countries. We didn't think the French would fight at all. We thought the Brits would probably fight their way back to the Channel, but couldn't stop us. He said, but I have to tell you, we watched you guys tear your guts out, tear your nation apart over fighting communism in a tiny little country halfway around the world that meant nothing economically or politically to you, that you had no interest in except to stop the spread of communism. And we knew that if we kicked off the fight, you would fight to the bitter end. And if you had to go nuclear to stop us, you'd go nuclear. So thank God, he said to me, we never tried you. Anytime I want to think about what we did in Vietnam, I remember that story. It means a lot to me, and I hope it means it to those Vietnam veterans in the group. I believe I was given direct verification from a soldier in the know that what we most accomplished in Vietnam was preventing the war, the big war that we all so feared. Because the truth is, I know, as a one-time Marine in the know, that if they had tried us and we couldn't stop them, we damn sure would have gone nuclear, and they would have too. So my main message to the Vietnam veterans in the audience, a message which you no longer need, is be proud of what you did. I know you are. You've taken care of your fellow veterans without fail ever since that time. You continue to do so. You represent America in the best of all possible ways. I am, as a former long-term resident of this community, extremely proud of what's been done here. I so distinctly remember how I personally felt, and a lot of people that were my friends and contemporaries felt when we first built the wall on the mall in D.C. We described it as that ugly black slash in the ground. We loved the idea, we hated the memorial. Now I have to say, that ugly black slash in the ground has grown on me, and I do not feel that way about it anymore. But that was our initial reaction. There's nothing ugly, nothing morbid, nothing downer about this memorial. I'm proud of both of them, but I'm more proud of this one. Thank you so very much to this community, and especially to the Walkers, for making it happen. God bless you. Semper Fi.
Playing now a reflective melody, the 2nd Marine Aircraft Wing Brass Quintet. Two wreaths are being laid today, presenting the first wreath in remembrance of our fallen Vietnam veterans will be Mr. Lee Walker, President of the Onslow Vietnam Veterans Foundation, and Major General Ray Smith. The second wreath represents our appreciation of a grateful nation and is presented by Mayor Sammy Phillips, Board Chairman Paul Buchanan, and Colonel Timothy Salmon. Please rise for the laying of the wreaths. a 21-gun salute, and taps. Please remain standing as today's ceremonial guard, conducted by Rolling Thunder, Chapter NC5, moves to the bridge, followed by the benediction with Commander James Asher.
Let us pray. Eternal Father, continue to give us the courage, honor, strength, and skill that we need to serve you and our country with dignity and pride, and walk before us to give us guidance, beside us to give us encouragement, and behind us to support and empower us now and forevermore. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today for the Onslow Vietnam Veterans Rededication Ceremony. We now invite Major General Ray Smith, Lee Walker, and Donald Odom to lead our Vietnam veterans to enter their memorial first, followed by our dignitaries and remaining guests. Thank you.